All right, here I'm just setting up the front piece so that I can cut what I need to into it. I pretty much give the customer a choice, whatever they want me to put on it. My CNC machine uses a spire by Vectrix, and what you see is what you get. This takes about 10 to 15 minutes. To cut the top piece runs almost 6 hours, but it's more of a 3-dimensional or a 2.5, so it definitely does take longer. This is just a 2D cut. Not sure what Cruz was trying to see or trying to do here, but he didn't want to move. I just color it in and sand off the top so that it leaves the color inside of the carving. That's what adds the color to it, and obviously any paint color you want to put in it, you can. Here I'm putting the dovetails together. As you can see from my table, I'm not scared to use the glue. Do any of y'all realize how much we stand in one spot? You can see that that's my favorite spot in the shop because I never move. It's where I bring everything to put it together. It's where I do 99% of the work. Here's where I'm starting to clamp it up. The first couple or first 4 go on kind of loose. I go back and tighten them up, get a little bit of squeeze out. And as you can see, the gaps start to close up here. I'm just like everybody else. You can't have enough clamps. But these top clamps pretty much seal the deal, pulls everything together. This really does help to make sure that it's square. I rarely ever put a square in it to check it. You just don't have to when you put so many clamps on it. It's got nowhere else to go. Here I'm just sanding all 4 sides to make sure that they're smooth, because not all the dovetails come out flat. The edges will stick out, and I'm just sanding them smooth. Here I'm just sanding off the top and the bottom. That way it sits flat. And when I put the top in, it'll be flat. Now I like to use a friction fit. I've always used Titebond 3. I keep hearing everybody say that you're not supposed to use Titebond 3 with black walnut, and I've never had a problem. I like to tape up the carving just to make sure I don't get any glue in it. Again, just using as much glue as possible, getting it as flat as possible. Here I like to take the clamp and put the bar in the middle so that it toes out at the ends. It just kind of helps give me a little bit more clamping pressure down there in those corners. Then I don't have as much room on the sides, so I just stand that one up. It gives me a good handle to move it around with. This used to be the part that made me most nervous. I can remember a couple of the first boxes that I cut. When I was cutting the top off of them, I felt like this is it. If I mess this up, I can throw it on the wood pile. Now you don't want to cut all the way through the sides and the front. Or in other words, you don't want to cut the lid all the way off. You want to leave a little bit to hold it in place while you cut the other 3 sides. Otherwise, it's going to fall off. It's going to get caught in the blade. It's going to scratch it, scar it, or worse, it's going to throw it at you. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I like to batch my work. I'd try to do 10 boxes at a time. I think here you may only see 3, but there's 7 more right there waiting to get cut. Now, I always start on the left side and then do the front, and then the right side and the rear. And the reason for that is if the rear doesn't line up with the left side at that very last cut, I might be the only one that knows. But if it's on the front, it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Here I'm just using the Japanese pull saw to cut through the remaining thin piece of wood that's holding the top on. I like this saw for a couple of reasons. It's just easier when you're pulling it. It's just so thin, it keeps from cutting into the inside of the box and scarring. Okay, now I'm going to cut the groove for the hinge. In the next video, I'll show you how I make the hinges. They're all handmade, made out of the same wood so that they will match. And when it's done right, you can barely see the hinge until you open the lid of the box. I call it a hidden hinge because basically that's what it is. It's hidden until you use it. Rob Cosman is the person that I learned this from. He's got great videos on how to do this, and This is just the closest that I can get to what he does. Let's just say I add a lot of firewood to the pile.